Hello, good morning to everybody in the US. Good evening to everybody in India. Welcome to our Stotra Bodha series talk number 42. Our talk today is on the contribution of Uddalaka Rishi in the realm of Vedanta. We're very excited to invite our keynote speaker today, Dr. Jayanthi P. Sahoo, who is an associate professor, Department of Philosophy in the Janki Devi Memorial College, University of Delhi. So we'll get started with a Vedic chanting, and then we'll have Sangeeta Anjali, and then my father, Dr. Prabhakar, will introduce the speaker, and we'll have some concluding remarks and vote of thanks. So we'll start with the um, Veda Kusumanjali at this point. Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यसेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो वरुणो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ. So now I'll play a chanting by Uday Ravi.
श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषये भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतो वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः. श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं. सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. शङ्खारूपेण मच्छित्तं पद्यमिदमबोध्यया किङ्करीयस्य सामाया शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रये. प्रह्लादवरदो देवो यो नृसिंहः परो हरिः नृसिंहोपासकं नित्यं तं नृसिंहगुरुं भजे. यतीन्द्रान् विद्यानिधेन्मन्त्रनिधेन् तदात्मनिष्ठान् भजे मानवशम्भरूपान्. तदात्मध्याननृतिंशेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीं विवेकिनं महाप्राज्ञं धैर्योद्धारक्षमानिधिं सदा नमपूर्वन्तं विद्यातीर्थं गुरुं भजे. अज्ञानां जाह्नवीतीर्थं विद्यातीर्थं विवेकिनां सर्वेषां सुखदं तीर्थं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रये. विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विदुशेखरभारतीं. श्रीमत्परमहंसपरिव्राजकाचार्यवर्य पदवाक्यप्रमाणपारावारपारेण यमनियमासना प्राणायामप्रत्याहारधारणाध्यान समाधिष्ठानयोगानुष्ठाननिष्ठा तपश्चक्रवर्ती अनादिर्विच्छिन्न श्रीशङ्कराचार्यगुरुपरम्परा प्राप्ता षड्दर्शनस्थापनाचार्य व्याख्यानसिंहासनाधीश्वरा सकलनिगमागमसाहृदया सांख्यत्रयप्रतिपादका वैदिकमार्गप्रवर्तका सर्वतन्त्रस्वतन्त्र आदिराजधानी विद्यानगरमहाराजधानी कर्नाटकसिंहासनप्रतिष्ठापनाचार्य श्रीमद्राजाधिराजगुरुभूमण्डलाचार्य ऋष्यशृङ्गपरवराधीश्वरा तुङ्गभद्रातीरवासी श्रीमद्विद्याशङ्करपादपद्माराधका श्रीमज्जगद्गुरो श्रीमद्ब्रह्मविद्यातीर्थमहास्वामी गुरुकरकमलसञ्जाता श्रीमज्जगद्गुरु श्री श्री भारती तीर्थ महास्वामिनां च तत्करकमलसञ्जाता श्रीमज्जगद्गुरु श्री श्री विधुशेखर भारती महास्वामिनां च शरणारविन्दयोः साष्टाङ्गप्रणामान् समर्पयामः। ओम शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
Okay, so now we'll have the Sangeetanjali by Srimati Annapurna Duvuri.
श्रीमद्वदीय चरितामृतमन्नमार्या पीत्वापि नैव सुहिता मनुजा भवेयुः। त्वं वेङ्कटाचलपतेरिव भक्तिसारम् श्रीताळपाक गुरुदेव नमो नमस्ते नमो नमस्ते। त्वमेव शरणं त्वमेव शरणं कमलोदरा श्री जगन्नाथा त्वमेव शरणं त्वमेव शरणं कमलोदरा श्री जगन्नाथा त्वमेव शरणम्। वासुदेव कृष्ण वामन नरसिंह वासुदेव कृष्ण वामन नरसिंह श्री सतीश सरसिजनेत्र भूसुरवल्लभ पुरुषोत्तमार्पित कौसेयवसन जगन्नाथा त्वमेव शरणम्। वटपत्रशयना भुवनपालन जन्तु वटपत्रशयना भुवनपालन जन्तु घटकारकरणा शृङ्गाराधिप वटपत्रशयना भुवनपालन जन्तु घटकारकरणा शृङ्गाधिप पटुतर नित्य वैभवराय तिरुवेङ्कटगिरिनिलया जगन्नाथा पटुतर नित्य वैभवराय तिरुवेङ्कटगिरिनिलया जगन्नाथा त्वमेव शरणं त्वमेव शरणं कमलोदरा श्री जगन्नाथा त्वमेव शरणम्।
Very beautiful. Thank you, Hanuman.
Beautiful. Thank
Okay,
you very
Nana.
much.
I think Shivalinga is here. So, Shivalinga, you want to do some chanting? Shivalinga, are you there? Yeah, please. You're muted, sir.
ॐ कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागं सस्तनोभिः व्यसेम देवहितै यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्षो हरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति न बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अग्ने नय सुपताराये अस्मान् विश्वानि देववयुनानि विद्वान् युजोध्यस्मज्जुहुराणमेनो भो इष्टं ते नम मुक्तिं विदेम ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ आब्रह्मन् ब्राह्मणो ब्रह्मवर्चसि जायताम् आराष्ट्रे राजन्यः शूरैषभ्यो अतिव्याधि महारथो जायताम् दोग्ध्रीं धेनुर्वोढान्नड्वान् आसु सप्तिः पुरन्धिर्योषा जिष्णो रथेष्ठाः सभेयो युवा अस्य यजमानस्य वीरो जायताम् निकामे निकामेन पर्जन्यो न वर्षतु फलवत्यो न वोषधयः पच्यन्तां योगक्षेमो न कल्पेताम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणचक्षुः स्तोत्रमतो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वो ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोतु अनिराकरणम् अस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेयोपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः.
Thank you, Shivalinga. Nana, can you please introduce the speaker and the talk today?
So today we are very much happy to have Jayanthi P. Sahoo from Delhi. And she is a sound professor for the past so many years, going with the philosophical knowledge and teaching large number of students and publishing a large number of articles in various journals. And the list is so big and all research journals have accepted. For example, she has got one article like Metaphysical Doctrine of Trika Philosophy of Kashmir Saivism. And again, another beautiful article on the concept of look in Jean Paul Sartre. And again, she has got another, so ancient knowledge systems and its application, higher education, and so on. So all about the articles. And she's an author of so many books also at the same time. And she's a PhD supervisor for working, and almost people have, so several students have completed their MPhil dissertation and working for the PhD. And by herself, besides teaching, research, and all that, she has undertaken projects, 5 from the ICPR and 3 from JDMC Research Center. And now she is having the project sanctioned on the psycho-philosophical study of the characters of Mahabharata. Well, of course, this topic is really interesting because psycho-philosophical characters are there also in Mahabharata. Mahabharata is not only a book of war and blood and adharma and dharma coming into the war grounds, Kurukshetra. So apart from all those things, there are several characters like Vidura, Dhritarashtra, Krishna, Dharmaraja, and so many characters are there. And it is really interesting to study their psycho and also philosophical sense in them and all that. For example, Yama is also a wonderful character, though he is not directly. Yama as a dog to, as a Dharma dog to Dharmaraja, and Yama as Vidura. So like that, we have so many, and it's a very interesting project, madam. And so also there is a happiness and well-being, a journey through yoga and all that. So I don't know where she finds time to all these things, but she is stealing time to go through, touch everything. But apart from that, she has agreed to talk about Uddalaka Maharshi, who belongs to some BC, 6th century BC or something like that. So we are just trying to recollect, remember, talk about that Uddalaka Maharshi, who happens to be the grandson of, who happens to be the grandfather of Ashtavakra Maharshi and Svetaketu's father. And he himself has got a great contribution in the field of Upanishads. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, and all that. But people don't go to the yard of the Upanishads. People go to the yard of all other things. In the mundane world, they go to clubs and all these things. But when you go to the portals of the beautiful Upanishadic Prapancham, that's Upanishadic world, then you say so many great scholars have toiled a lot and shared their thoughts and got revelations from the higher principles, namely Paramatma, and saw that the mankind is not left in the streets, but they are also being guided, and only lucky people will be there. Punyavantaha are very few. So in Taittiriya Upanishad, in Taittiriya Aranyaka Aruna Prashna, at the end, the Maharshis, there are 27 Rishis who are responsible to talk about Surya Bhagavan. This is the Magha Masam where Surya is important. And the entire Avarana Prashna concludes with a beautiful suggestion. Tapasvi punyo bhavati, tapasvi punyo bhavati. So any tapasvi will become punyavan. If not today, kalantare api, their name will be remembered. So thanks to Nada Veda Adhyayana Kendra and also World Association for Vedic Studies, Bengaluru chapter, they have an occasion to talk about or know about Uddalaka Maharshi from the scholarship of Jayanti Pasad. I don't want to speak much on that because she is there to talk about Uddalaka. Normally, Uddalaka, Uddhava, and these are all great people. And Uddhava is very close to Krishna, Sri Krishna, also Akrura, and so many bhaktas are there. But Uddhava Gita is also important. But Uddalaka is important. So when I asked her to give a choice, her choice fell on this Uddalaka Maharshi, and he is also popular in Buddhism and Jainism and other places also. He's a metaphysicist and all that. So such a wonderful guru, sage, Maharshi, Uddalaka, we are just trying to ask. We request Dr. Sahoo Jayanthi to speak to us. Namaste. Welcome, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. I think, am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Sir, I want to share my PPT and I'll start my presentation with the invocation of Guru Mantra. Pranam to Guru Sishya Parampara, all the great Gurus. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam, Tadpadam Darsitam Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Sri Gurave Namaha, Abhyayami, Stapayami, Pujyayami, Dhyayami, Tathato Namaskaram Karome. I'm little, the title of my presentation is The Contribution of Uddalaka Rishi to the Realm of Vedanta Philosophy. I'm little scared about this topic, and my knowledge of the Uddalaka Rishi is very limited. I just pray Uddalaka Rishi to give me some strength to speak about him. And last time when I presented Yagyavalkya, Rishi Yagyavalkya, I found that a person like Yagyavalkya uh, is so much of contribution in the field of Vedanta, in the field of Upanishad. And then I was little worried about when I said to sir that I'll speak on that Uddalaka Rishi. I said yes, but when I had gone through this, it was a difficult time for me to speak about what exactly I'll speak about Uddalaka Rishi uh, and his understanding of the reality. So, pranam to one and all present here, respected Professor Prabhakar, respected Professor Ringalila, distinguished scholars and dear friends. My sincere gratitude to Prabhakar sir for allowing me to share my little knowledge with you all. It's an honor to stand before you today and speak on the profound contributions of Uddalaka Rishi, one of the greatest sages of ancient India, whose teachings form a cornerstone of Vedanta philosophy. His wisdom recorded in the Chandogya Upanishad, as Sar mentioned, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad has shaped our understanding about the self, the ultimate reality, and the nature of existence. Uddalaka Rishi was a pioneer of rational thought and philosophical inquiry. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he did not merely accept tradition and the dogmas, sought to understand the deeper truths of the universe through reason and self experience, who was one of the earliest teachers to emphasize that everything in existence originates from Sat, pure existence or being, the notion that the universe emerges from nothing. So, I would like to, before I go inside the Uddalaka Rishi's philosophy and his philosophical developments, so I would like to say something because my training is in philosophy, and philosophy generally we do the analysis and interpretations, textual interpretation, and sometimes if you do a kind of in-depth studies and many things came into light. So when I studied Uddalaka Rishi, I found that the Western philosophical methods, basically when we talk about methods of rationalism, empiricism, experiential method, experimental method, then dialectical method, then phenomenological method, and all these things are the together you find combined all methods are there within the philosophy of Uddalak Rishi Uddalak, and the discourse between Rishi Uddalak and Swetaketu. And that is so amazing that he has touched to the rationalism of Plato, Aristotle, starting from Plato and Aristotle to Descartes and Kant and so on and so forth, Hegel. And then you find that the method of phenomenological method, which has been explained by Husserl and the Husserl and Brentano, and the existential analysis of the consciousness theory that is also presented within the Rishi Uddalak and Swetaket to discuss. And that in fact will give you a some kind of strength. And beyond that also, when we talk about that tradition, the richness of Indian philosophical traditions, be it Yagyavalkya Rishi or Uddalak Rishi or Astabhakra Rishi, any Rishi parampara, the speciality of Indian tradition which has not been covered by the Western philosophical traditions is the understanding a nature of reality which can provide you not only the experience of the empirical world, but about a journey to the transcendental world and how to overcome the sufferings of the life. And that is so wonderful to know your tradition, that which provides you enough strength to fight with the sufferings of the life and the limitations and the narrowness, and to overcome all this and to reach to the state of infinity, which Uddalaka Rishi is trying to uh, explain through various metaphors to Swetaketu, and that discipline, that humbleness, that autonomy, and the respect, and beyond any sort of dogmatism which the Indian philosophical traditions has established through the Rishi Parampara. I salute to that tradition, and that is what the that when we go through the tradition, Western philosophical tradition, I do believe that when we talk about philosophy of any whether it is Indian philosophy or Western philosophy, they do talk about the phenomenal world. But India is the only that the Darshanik parampara is the only parampara which speaks about the beyond the phenomenal world, and that is the spiritual world, and that is the most difficult task to talk about the spiritualism. And that's with my limitation of knowledge. I find myself incompetent when I listen to Professor Prabhakar and his distinguished scholars. My knowledge of Sanskrit is very limited. And Rishi Uddalak, also known as Uddalaka Rishi, was an eminent philosopher in ancient India, contributing significantly to the Upanishadic tradition. Uddalaka Rishi was highly revered sage in ancient Indian philosophy, a figure in the Upanishadic tradition of Vedanta. His contribution to Vedanta is profound, particularly in metaphysics, self-knowledge, and about the nature of ultimate reality, that is Brahman. His dialogues, particularly with his son Swetaketu in the Tandukya Upanishad, explore fundamental questions about the nature of reality, knowledge, and selfhood. And I'll basically limit myself to the Swetaketu and Uddalak dialogue and not going beyond that. So my knowledge is also limited. So that's a kind of parampara which we belong. So one of the most profound philosophical contribution of Uddalaka Rishi is the Sat existence, the fundamental essence of reality. He argued that in the universe originate from one ultimate unchanging reality, often with Brahman. This idea challenged ritualistic traditions and empirical introspection and self-realization. And that is what you find, that when we talk about Indian tradition, what is important is that as a philosophy students, we do talk about extreme form of subjectivism that is there within the Upanishad and the Vedanta. And then that subjectivism is not limited to only the subjectivism, but that is extended to an objective structure of analyzing the objective structure of reality. And there is a kind of, in Uddalaka Rishi, basically you find he's an idealist, he's a realist, he's a materialist, he's a spiritualist, he is a kind of holistic aspect. He has taken into several aspects to explain the reality, and that is what I was thinking, what I'll speak about. But then when I um, uh, automatically that came to my mind, that it is something which is anything you discuss, whatever discuss within the Western philosophical tradition or Indian philosophical tradition, that has been already covered by the Rishi Uddalak through his discourse with Swetaketu, and that is something which is very brilliant mind can only explore this kind of idea, whether it is Buddhist theory of change or Heraclitus theory of change in the Greek tradition, or be it the universalistic explanation or the theory of form and ideas taken care of by Plato and Aristotle and Socrates. And that is what he is when he speaks about the nature of being. And he taught to Swetaketu. And that's something amazing, that whether it is Sankhya philosophy, the Prakriti and Purusa relationship, or it is Vedanta philosophy of appearance, reality, Brahma, Satya, Jagat Mithya, Jive Brahmeva Napara. So the entire thing is that conglomeration of everything you find in the Rishi Uddalak. So that's give me the some kind of strength to speak about him. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, Uddalak is portrayed as caring father, and so that is a kind of mostly when we find that when we talk about the uh, Rishi or any philosopher, and then we find something you have to take. What is so significant about Uddalak and Swetaketu, Rishi Uddalak and Swetaketu's dialogue? And then you find an amazing father, and he's trying to find out that what his son is doing, and he's inspiring and giving a kind of discourse with him, and allowing him to know that that what he has taught and he has not taught, and what kind of ignorance he is having, or whether he is already aware of. So that is a kind of Swetaketu. So he sent Swetaketu to a residential school at the age of 12. Often said Swetaketu's return home after 12 years of education. Now a bright and well-known, well-grown young man, Uddalak questions him to assess whether he has truly learned something of profound significance. He asks his son whether he has gained knowledge of that by which the unheard is of his heart, the unthought of his thought of, and the unknown becomes known. Swetaketu was surprised to hear all these questions. So that is a most difficult, and see that when I talk about the method, and this method of questioning is also very important, and that we find only in the Upanishadic tradition, that method of Socrates, that method of questioning, or method of Lentus, and that is very much the contribution of Indian mind, Upanishadic era to the whole world, and that is also there within Buddhism and Jainism, and so also other traditions, and that is there. So Swetaketu was surprised to hear all these questions. Swetaketu admits that he has not learned such knowledge. Uddalak then, with great care and diligence, began to instruct his son on what conventional schooling could not impart, the ultimate truth, knowing which everything becomes known. Avijñātam viññātam iti, the true essence of life. So that is what I said, that the more you become spiritual, and it's very difficult thing, and that is the greatest contribution of the whole world, the Upanishadic, the self knowledge, and that is we cannot, because here I would like to mention certain things, because my training is also Western philosophical thought. My PhD is on Western philosophy. Then you find that there are certain limitation within Western philosophical studies when they talk about the self theory, and we talk about the theory of self and Atman or Brahman, the pure consciousness. That purity and guiding factors is something which is missing, that how to get rid of the problems of the life, that existentialism is unable to give a path, and which the path is given by the Upanishadic thinkers as well as by the Vedantins, so or any school of Indian philosophical thought. So Dalak said to Swetaketu, the father, the conversation is very important, and the patience, the humble and disciplined way, and how he is very patiently explaining his son that what is the nature of the ultimate reality. So that's something which is amazing, and that is probably missing to my mind in today's teaching, as a teacher, when we teach our students, and we are lost because we do not know many things, with some limitations of language, limitations that which we have not get a proper guru to learn certain things. So that is because of the limitations. Even as teacher, we are not able to impact the kind of real knowledge. So that is how the Rishi's tradition, and that is how Rishi Uddalak came into existence. So all transformation is a change of name and form, which are superimposed on an underlying substance. Having known a piece of clay, one gets to know all objects made of clay. The same with gold and iron, for all modification are mere words having speech as their basis. The underlying substance, clay, gold, or iron, is the reality. The entire world of phenomena, being a series of transformation, is a conglomerate of forms with corresponding names. The transformations are mere names. Knowledge of the one indivisible existence underlying all phenomena gives us the knowledge of all that exists. Swetaketu was shocked to hear all this from his father. He humbly requested his father to give him the knowledge he spoke about. Approaching the Guru in all humility was an essential prerequisite for studentship in ancient India, which is missing today. That is also there in the Kathopanishad, then Bryhadaranyaka Upanishad, whether it is Yajnavalkya, Maitreya, Gargi debate. So any sort of kind of you find there is a inquiry to, and there is a curiosity to know about the nature of highest reality. So for Indians, it is a scientific explanation about the reality is not the very important thing, but the explanation of understanding the beyond the phenomenal and the nominal world is something which is the great inquiry, and that is how you find Mandukya Upanishad. The state of Turiya is something which is very important, and the state of bliss is something which the Indian mind can understand. So Rishi Uddalak was satisfied with his son's behavior. He said, "In the beginning of creation, O child, the thought that true being alone existed, one only, without a second. It thought, let me multiply myself and create beings. He first created Tejas or fire god. The fire wanted to multiply himself. He created the water. That is why whenever anybody weeps or perspires, water comes out. The water wanted to multiply himself and create food. Then the true being thought, I have now created these three gods. Now I shall enter them Jivatma and assume name and form. Later on, the true being thought, I shall now make each of them enter into the other, having thus entered them with his living spirit. It assumed names and forms like Agni, Indra, etc. The true being made them enter into one another again. O child, now learn what each became thereafter. Whatever was fire, sold as red. Whatever was water, sold as white. And whatever was food, sold as black. Thus you will see the word Agni vanishes in fire. This change has only been named. The three primary forms of tejas, aps, or water, annam, or food are the only true forms. And that is also there in the Taittiriya Samhita when they talk about Panchakos theory. And that's so beautifully, you find that Uddalak is teaching the Swetaketu the importance of food, water, and fire. And that's so important to establish the concept of mind. And I'm surprised to see, I was going through a Upanishadic text translation in English translation, and I was so confused. And to see the kind of knowledge which Rishi has developed, somewhere it was mentioned the mind, the concept of mind 200 times in the Rig Veda, the concept of mind has been discussed. So good to know that, and so confused to again understand you in what context and what situation the mind has been analyzed and what way, and that is something somewhere the problem. So on being consumed by the individual, subtle aspects of food, water, rise to the mind, vital force, prana, and speech. Hence, the mind consists of food, prana of water, and speech of fire. Swetaketu could not understand how food became the mind or prana as water. So that is why the tradition is that never the father has never ignored the child curiosity. So there is a freedom to that. You can ask the question and you can ask your problems and the gurus, they generally helps you to understand the problems of life and remove your ignorance, and that is what the Vidya is all about. Uddalak explained it further through a practical example. When I said this experimental method, it and experiential method, this has been used by the Swetaketu. Uddalak asked Swetaketu to follow this. He asked Swetaketu not to take food for 15 days and live only on water. Swetaketu survived this test as the water he was taking ensured that Pran did not leave the body. But he could not recall the Vedic mantras that he had remembered earlier. Uddalak explained just as a single ember the size of a firefly remains as a residue of a big fire, by that nothing bigger is born, even so, my dear, of your 16 parts, only one remains. With that, you are unable to recall the Vedas. Swetaketu started taking food again, and his memory was revived. He understood how the mind was made of food and the vital force of water. And when the economics said that the three basic necessities of life, food, water, and the shelter, and that the tradition so nicely, so beautifully through the Panchamahabhut and other things, the Panchamahawakyas has beautifully explained the nature of the reality. So Dalek observes that eventually in the everything, in the end, everything in existence is observed back into that form which everything immersed. It is the same in the case of an individual too. At his death, man reverses in successive steps towards that being from which it is originated. The speech merges into mind, the mind into prana, prana into heat, and heat, the last to depart into pure being. This process occurs in every case, as in nature, no matter whether one is aware of it or not. The process of going back is natural and doesn't depend on the striving of the individual, but one who is fully conscious and understands the reality at each stage of the process gains freedom. Such knowing and not knowing is perhaps the difference between knowledge and ignorance, and that is something which is only who realize the self can understand and can get rid of the fear of the death, and that is also there with the Yama and Nachiketa debate. And what makes the Uddalak's contribution significant contribution, when I went through all the analogies or metaphors he has used, then the metaphor of seed and the banyan tree, just as the essence of a vast and banyan tree is contained within a tiny seed, so too does the infinity Brahma reside within the self. Salt dissolved in water, like salt dissolved in water, Brahman is ever present, true, though not always perceptible. So that is why Indian always believes that what is perceptual knowledge, that is not the real knowledge. And as also you find in case of Plato also, he talks about that. So that is also is a kind of contribution of the Vedanta, that that is that only through self everything is possible. So river and ocean, rivers merge into the ocean and lose their distinct identities, similar to how the individual self merges into Brahman. Honey and bee, that metaphor, just as honey is the collective essence of many bees, so is that one unified in all beings. Clay and for example, different pots may have different shapes, but they are all fundamentally made of the same clay, symbolizing the illusory nature of diversity. So gold ornaments, gold can take away many forms, but all remains essentially gold, illustrating the idea that existence is ultimately Brahman. And then fire and sparks, just as sparks emerges from a fire, so do all living beings originates from Brahman. Milk and curd, while milk transforms into curd, its essence remains, representing the continuity of existence and transformation. This example is also given in Ishwar Krishna's Sankhya Karika when they talk about the theory of causation and what is potential becomes actual. That has been so almost all the philosophical development, ancient Indian philosophical thoughts. as its origin, you can see within the Rishi Parampara, as its origin mostly has taken from the Rishi Uddalak, and that is how you find who speaks about a being which is the origin, not like nothing. So he starts with a being is everything, and from which the origination of the world, the theory of cosmology is also started. So that is what analogy of banyan tree already have been discussed, and that nothingness is also a very important concept within the Indian philosophical tradition, and especially with the Rishi Parampara, and that is something which is the reality, and that is what the self is all about. And the many definitions already is being aware of the most learned scholars. So I just don't want to speak on that. And then we have Uddalak explained to his son that finest part in the seed which one doesn't see is indeed essence. It is hidden the big banyan tree. And what is most important thing, as I also last time talk about, that have faith, dear one. This faith is something, Shraddha is something बहुत important है in Indian tradition. So in the faith, you can achieve anything. So the reality which we are talking about, apart from the logical, rational, scientific discourse, what is important to have faith, and that faith was there within the Swetaketu to wanted to know something, and that faith was there within that within Nachiketa, and also was there with when it comes to Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Arjun debate, that is also there with Arjun. That so that is a kind of bonding which is missing today's teaching learning process, and that's why we are talking how to we are always talking about ancient Indian knowledge system and the importance of ancient knowledge system and its continuity and changes. So just as the subtle unseen essence pervades the tree, similarly Sat, subtle and invisible, pervades all existence. That subtle essence, Sat, is the truth, Atman. Everything comes from that and everything merges back into that. It is in all beings. You like the tree and the world is made of that essence. The evidence of that can be grasped by reasoning and faith. And Swetaketu, you are that Tatvamasi. And the beautiful line, that beautiful thinking of Uddalaka Rishi, that how he is unifying this diversity into oneness and one being, that's so important. So that also again promotes the idea of Vasudeva Kutumbakam and the idea of Ekam Sad Vipra Bodha Vadanti, that is also there. Unity in diversity. So though diversity is being cherished in Indian culture, and that is what make Dalak Rishi so significant, that the world which is appears to be true is not the truth, but the truth is something else. And that nothingness may not be understood as void. That nothingness, however subtle, is never non-existent. The essence of the tree is in that seeming nothingness. The manifest emerges from the unmanifest. The cause, that nothingness, however subtle, is never non-existence, non-existent. So that is how the Dalak Rishi is so important for all ages to come. So in the same way, the whole universe emerged from an invisible essence, which is the self. He said that the self is the subtlest of all, and that it is the source of everything. He said that the self is the Brahman, and that Swetaketu is that you are that Tattvamasi. The five Mahavakyas itself are so important for life, and once we know that and work on that, it's something which is important within the tradition. I'll come back to that after this quotation, and that is what the tradition, richness of the Indian tradition and richness of the Rishi Uddalak. Just as that subtlest unseen essence pervades the tree, similarly, Sat, subtle, invisible, pervades all existence. It is like lump of salt dissolved in a jug of water. You would not see, yet it is there all time. That subtle essence, Sat is the truth, the Atman, everything comes from that and everything merges back into that. It is all, in all beings. You like the tree and the world is made of that essence. The evidence of that can be grasped by reasoning and faith. Svetiketu, you are that. Uddalak's famous phrase Tattvamasi was later on taken by Sri Sankaracharya to be a statement of the identity of Atman and Brahman. In order to explain his view, Uddalak makes use of number of metaphors from the natural world, which I have already discussed the metaphors, and I am not going to that because of the time. We can have some discussion. As bees suck nectar from many flowers and make their honey one, so that no drop can say, I am from this flower or that. All creatures, though one, know not they are that one. As the river flowing east and west merge in the sea and become one with it, forgetting that they were able separate streams. So I'll just complete. Go through these exercises with the to learn that the universe we live in is micro and macro, can be studied and understood. The universe in all aspects is infinity, complete and conserved. He learns that the self is not mere me, but is the knower. When a person is absorbed in dreamless sleep, he is one with the self. Though he knows it not, we say he sleeps, but he sleeps in the self. As the tethered bird grows tired of flying out in vain to find a place and rest and settle down at last on its own perch, so the mind, tired of wandering about hither and thither, settled down at last in the slave, dear one, to whom it is vowed. All creatures, dear one, have their source in that. That is their home, that is their strength. There is nothing that doesn't come from that. Of everything, that is the inmost self, that is the truth, self supreme. You are that, Satyaketu. You are that. And once we understand what you are that, and problem of the world will vanish, and the narrowness of the mind which will go. But again, Uddalak Rishi said to Swetaketu, listening to me is not very important. How you are practicing in life, that's the most important thing. And that is why that listen to the spiritual discourse is not that important when you follow it and practice it. And that's the most difficult thing in life. And that's why the Upanishad and the Vedanta has provided the methods, that is Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasan, and which is the most difficult thing. And Shravan is also because beautifully Guru and Sisya, as I said, that whether it is Guru like Yama or Guru like Krishna, Guru like Swetake Uddalak, Guru like Yagyavalkya, so important for the spiritual knowledge, and acknowledging their richness of their knowledge is something I bow down my head near them. So that's the provides me the strength, and that beautifully also you see that the problems of the life, most often we undergo so many dilemmas of life. And here in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 2.7, Arjun is said that Karpanya dosa pahata swabhava. And Arjun, Krishna was not expecting from Arjun this kind of that dilemmas, or a kind of what a kind of fear, state of fear which Arjun is having. But he taught him the knowledge of the self, that how to get rid of the problems of life. So that is why it is important to have a guru and who can provide you the right knowledge. When I said right knowledge, is that knowledge which Swetaketu is getting a knowledge from the Uddalak, and which is very difficult to get a guru of that sort of in this age. We may have many kind of knowledge, scientific knowledge, professionalism, so many things we are teaching to our children, but we are unable to be a good teacher, and because we don't have that kind of training, not like a guru like Rishi Uddalak. Uddalak explained those profound truths using simple and powerful analogies, whether the analogies, the pot, gold and ornament, the banyan seed, or salt dissolved in water, each of which illustrates that all diversity is what an expression of the one eternal reality. His teachings not only influenced the Upanishad but also laid the groundwork for the later Vedantic scholars, including Adi Sankaracharya. Today, as we explore Vedantic thought, we must acknowledge that Uddalak Rishi insights are not just ancient wisdom but eternal truths, guiding humanity towards self realization and the ultimate knowledge of oneness. Through his famous teaching Tatvamasi, he revealed the fundamental truth that the individual self is not separated from the ultimate reality. His logical approach, deep metaphysical inquiries, and powerful analogies laid the foundation for Advaita Vedanta, influencing great philosophers like Adi Sankaracharya. The message of Uddalak Rishi is not just for scholars or spiritual seekers. It is a universal call for self-awareness and inner realization for peace and bliss. It urges us to look beyond mere appearances and recognize the oneness that unites all existence. May we strive to apply these teachings in our lives, seek the truth beyond illusion, and move closer to realize our true nature as Brahman. So that is my knowledge, as I said, is very limited. So all images are from the internet references. I'm thankful to Swami Krishnanand and thankful to Swami Alokanand and to develop my paper, understanding my little understanding of Uddalak Rishi and Professor Srinivas Rao's blog. And I'm thankful to Professor Prabhakar and all the learned scholars present here. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. It was a wonderful talk. I really enjoyed the content you have put together and the importance of Uddalaka Rishi. Very, very inspiring because, as you just mentioned, he is probably the foundational guru of the knowledge of Advaita, as you pointed out, as you can tell, Tatvamasi inspired Shankaracharya, and the uh, love of father and son also you very nicely portrayed, which I think must have been the inspiration for his great work that he has done for all of us. And importance of guru, as you mentioned, it's never enough. Even though his son came after education, he lacked some of the important information, and because of that education he was able to
You
fill the
have to
gaps
talk.
his father is able to provide. So again, you clarified how the guru's importance, regardless of how much preparation education you have, is important in recognizing the truths. And again, I was very inspired to see the advice of the guru is comprehensive. It's not just only like food and other things, but also metaphysical. And since he's talking to his son and a little bit younger person, as you said, there are a lot of wonderful analogies of banyan tree milk, and things that you mentioned in terms of the salt dissolved in water, gold and ornaments, all of that sort of ways to simplify the complex information and leave very powerful ideas back in the mind of a young person. I think those are also very, very exciting and inspiring. So thank you so much for a very, very wonderful talk.
Thank you so much. And I see Prabhakar sir and you, as he kind of, you are fortunate enough to get the knowledge that Uddalak Rishi, and I can see that between you and as Swetaketu and Prabhakar sir as Uddalak imparting so many knowledge which we are unfortunate to have that. So I'm so grateful. Like it's speaking about spiritual discourses is a really difficult task, and thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no, wonderful. I appreciate it. Nana, you want to make some remarks?
Generally, is there, if he talks by phone, is it possible to get into this things? Because
He
through
can
his,
join Zoom on the phone. He can do it. He can join Zoom on the phone.
oh, he said, because I don't know, he's not able to join,
Okay.
and he wants to talk over the phone for his mobile. Hello, sir. Now your comments on Uddalaka wanted. Rishis are, all these rishis are so knowledgeable, and they are so analytical, and they are investigation, and they are just about looking at the nature and trying to uncover the nature. For example, as you said about universe, so look at the sky, and then no, I think it's not possible for him to join. So there are so many points that you have been able to bring up, and so we understand that how the father takes very much care about Swetaketu, and saying that what you have learned is not enough, so you have to learn more. And Swetaketu's son wanted to have some wealth for him, so he went to Janaka Maharaja and started participating in a debate with that. And though that Swetaketu's son, he lost the debate, and ultimately he had to go through the punishment, and the Ashtavakra Maharshi got relieved. So when you look at all these great rishis, apart from the other aspects of their human life, but they are trying to analyze and give knowledge and to all the people, which will be highly electrifying, because the mind and food, that's what I have connected. So the mind becomes duller and duller the more and more if you neglect food. So there are so many important connections, as we could see, and so and moreover his contribution on Chandogya Upanishad belongs to Samaveda, and human beings are not separate, they are form of the universe, and talking about the Atman and individual. Yes, that's what she explained all these points very much nicely. Yeah. So please send a brief note on that. Welcome. Okay, ma. Thank you very much. Bye. Namaste. So, Dr. Ingalalli is not able to connect and is telling that he will email his remarks on Uddalaka Maharshi, and he is remembered for his Tattvamasi explanations and all that. So the contribution of the Uddalaka Maharshi is to the realm of Vedanta only, I put it. And you have, so they are all very much acquainted with so many aspects of human knowledge and philosophical thinking and about the Parabrahman. See, ultimately, Shankara said, Pare Brahmani kopi nasaktaha. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam. So the Brahman in that nirvana is important. And that nirvanam people don't go to. And yasya brahmane ramate chittam, ramate chittam, nandatyeva. What more? Because Shankaracharya and all these later acharyas are aware of the work done by the great rishis like Uddalaka or Svetaketu or Vastavakra or anybody. So, and ultimately, even Krishna also comes into the same line of thought, trying to encourage people whenever they lose themselves. See, Nashto Moha Smritir Labdha is the ultimate point, but Klaibyam Asmakam Prartha. See, the philosophical situation is very important to give a kind of enthusiasm and some sap in life, which people lose, and they think that life is a burden and life is a miserable and they want. So the knowledge about these great contributions made by these great rishis will definitely keep the human life alive until the last. Something like in Upanishad, that is the last Upanishad, Isavasya Upanishad. So in the very first line, he says that Isavasya midam sarvam etkinchit jagatyam jagatu tena chektena punjita. See, bhoga is permitted, but with an attitude of you are not attached to the bhoga. You can always enjoy that, but you will not. Something like if a cup of coffee is given, if a coffee is given in a silver tumbler, the person say, the tumbler belongs to me, the coffee belongs to you. So that is how the life goes like, because the silver cup will not belong to the person who receives it. So in the same manner, the Brahma Tattvam and Tattvamasi and all these Mahavaha Vakyas, people were talking about 4 Mahavakyas. Now you have said Pancha Mahakavyas. But whatever has been found in the Upanishads are all Mahavakyas only. They are all open for a lot of commentary and all that. So again, the idea that you said about water, these things, food, water and fire and annam, all these important because everybody is familiar with all that, they are using it. But they don't know the value of all that. So people waste a lot of food and there is a lot of ethics and etiquette required to do all that. But anyway, Uddalaka Rishi is today live in our company with all of us and is happy that his teachings are being remembered. And they are not tough at all when they are expressed by a person like you, Professor. Because when people sit themselves, they will find it a little tough and all that. But when a good teacher is trying to explain that in a normal manner, that itself is really a great one. That's why Acharyam Patisthet. In that Upanishad, it says Brahma Paraha, Brahma Nishthaha, Brahmanveshinaha Rushayaha. So this Brahmanveshinaha, Brahmaparaha, Brahmanishtaha, and Samitpanayaha. These are the characteristics which you come across. And when they approached Papulada Maharshi, she brought an example of the tree and the seed. And when the seed is broken, the two members apart and you may throw it. But any bit of every part or every member of the seed broken is contributing for the big banyan tree. That's exactly an interesting idea. Like that, so many electrifying ideas are there being supplied in the teachings by our Uddalaka Maharshi. But I wish, Madam, you just send your full paper and it will go into the publication, and it's so nice it is. Because there are hardly teachers and scholars who come to the desk of the ordinary people and can make them understand. Because students also are there for sake of examination, they will just study afterwards, totally they forget about it. But that's why Artho, Jignasu, Artharthi, Gnani is an Ararshabha. So Krishna votes for Gnani who will not stop learning even on the deathbed. So Arjuna was the Gnani. Therefore, Anugita comes into being also after Bhagavad Gita. So that is where both of them will meet again and say, do you remember what I have told you? Then both say that I forgotten, because Arjuna complained, soon after the war you went to Dwaraka and were busy, and I was busy with these mundane things. I don't remember what you spoke to me. And even Krishna said, I was also busy, I could not. So now they go to, they want to know about the moksha dharma and also the moha which people all the. So in this Rishi, Uddalaka Maharshi, and we see so much of, so many truths have been, and ultimately as you see, agnatam vignatam bhavati, and what you don't know will come get revealed to us. That is what is revealed. But we cannot simply skip ourselves, say that, skip away saying that I don't know. See, people say I don't know and get out. No, why you don't know? How much you don't know? What you know? So this kind of investigating zeal and spirit has been inculcated by this Yajnavalkya Maharshi when he tries to educate his son and his daughter, and also the son-in-law, and other further on and on. So that's why that kind of Guru Parampara is really valuable. So, madam, you have brought out so much of truth and inspiration in your talk. And unfortunately, we don't have these two fellows of people, Purushottam and those, they actually accepted and very enthusiastic to offer. But Ingalali is watching, hearing, but he was not able to connect and all that, but he will send these comments to you. So this is how the entire program comes forth very much, very happy. And even Anjane Prasad has made a beautiful comments, because he is one who is not, who has explained beautifully the Nirvana Shatkam, Bhajagovinda Stotram, Bhagavad Gita and all. Because the mind must run into these directions also, so that we find a kind of enthusiasm and happiness in life. Because if you all around, as Uddalaka also sound, there is a lot of unhappiness around in the world. But one has to take happiness out of unhappiness. That is the Guru and Parampara and Guru Anugraha and all that. So I cannot talk anything much about all this, but everywhere, all the slides you presented and all that is wonderfully inspiring, Amma. God bless you. Thank you very much for all these things.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Any comments? Srinivas Govind is there, I think. He may be able to offer something. Govind Srinivas, Govind Raj, or Sindhu Shankar, she's also one who is going to be next speaker. All these people are so spellbound at your talk, so they have not come forward. Kiruba, there was a talk on also. Kiruba also is a food engineer working here. I just urged her to come and join. Are you there? Can you talk about this, something about the food and all that?
Yes,
No.
Uncle. I'm sorry I joined late, but just listening to Professor Kalyam's reflections, I think so. That was a wonderful talk. I look forward to listening to the recorded version. Thank you so much. Yeah.
After recorded version heard, then you can add some comments, because these are the 3 points. In fact, the Uddalaka Maharshi has his attention paid upon 3 things. One is those 3 things, and ultimately food is important. Annam brahmeti vijanat. Nobody said apo brahmeti or any other point, but annam brahmeti vijanat, because having created the beings, God has given the mind. The mind is the only one factor which is blessed to the human beings, with which they can make all kinds of prosperity and happiness and unhappiness, and all that will happen. Therefore, the manas, that manas is all found in the Upanishads also, and mano jyotihi jushatam. As far as Mano Jyoti has got to be accepted and all that. So, not making much to comments, I think I can conclude myself, and anything, Sivalingaya can conclude it with your.
Om Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hariye Paramatmane Pranata Kleshanashaya गोविन्दाय नमो नमः कृष्णाय यादवेन्द्राय ज्ञानमुद्राय योगिने नाथाय रुक्मिणेशाय नमो वेदान्तवेदिने कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु श्रीवासुदेवार्पणमस्तु श्रीवेदपुरुषाशीर्वादोऽस्तु ॐ श्रीमातृचरणारविन्दार्पणमस्तु ॐ तत्सत् हरि ओं नमस्ते।